What is going on, everybody? Good morning. Welcome back to the channel. If you're new here, wait, I don't know what I'm talking about. Anyways, if you guys are new here, welcome to the channel. If you're not, welcome back. But today is the day that we have been waiting for because we are finally gonna install the Vortex Standard on my GLI. So I am pretty excited. As you can see right now, the car is kind of in shambles still, but that's okay because it's a workspace essentially. You know, we got the intercooler back pretty much mounted up. It's not like it's perfect or anything, but it's good enough, you know. Okay, so as far as it goes today, like I said, we're gonna be putting in the turbo. So that means that we have to do a couple of different things. First and foremost, we're gonna be swapping this 5-bar manifold absolute pressure sensor. I wanna say that's what it's called, something like that. And then we are going to have to basically start pulling out all the coil packs, unclipping these harnesses here, folding everything back towards the front of the engine, disconnect these coolant lines, disconnect this line, disconnect the down pipe, disconnect the turbo inlet pipe, maybe move these wires here. And we also have to take out these camshaft solenoids. And essentially from there, we should be able to start unmounting the turbo and pulling off the oil return lines and oil feed lines. I think that's what they're called. We have a lot of work to do. I did already do some of the preliminary stuff because I was working on like the discharge pipe and everything when I was doing the intercooler. But what that means for us is that normally we would have to take out the battery tray. We'd have to disconnect the discharge pipe and the turbo muffler, but I already did all of that. Should be in a good spot to get started. But I think for right now, let's go ahead and take a look at what we're doing. Now, just to put it out in the video here, I've never done a turbo install. I've never done an intercooler install. I've never done fuel pumps, except on the Miata. So all of this stuff is very new to me. So I would suggest that some of the stuff that I'm doing is probably not gonna be like 100% correct. Just keep that in mind. Don't use this as a exact step-by-step tutorial. There's probably better videos out there, and if I can find some, I'll link them below as well. So hopefully that'll help, but let's get back into it. Okay, so now we first removed the coil packs, you know, disconnect the harnesses from each one. We went ahead and removed this from the, I want to say it's the diverter valve plug. We have this one right here that we just popped off. And we popped off this one here on the high pressure fuel pump. Now we need to disconnect all of the little plugs on these camshaft cylinder actuators or something. I don't know what these are called, but we need to do all of these. And you can basically just kind of push these up, you know, as you can see right there, that's how it is. And then you push up on it, and then in theory you should be able to pull it off. I think, I don't know, I've never taken these off before, so I really have no idea. I think that's kind of the first steps of the process, because then we should be free to move this harness forward towards us. Okay, so we are currently at the situation where we need to take off the coolant hard line because we got all the camshaft activators, solenoids, I think that's what they are, off. And so that means, yeah, we gotta move on to the next steps. My situation's a bit different because I don't have any coolant in the car because I just replaced my radiator. I'm not gonna cap these lines off, like the one that comes off the radiator here and connects into this like hard line right there. In your case, you probably want to cap this off or, you know, try to do something so that way it doesn't leak too bad. In my case, we're not going to do that, but what we do need to do is a couple of things. We need to basically disconnect this line here, and then we're going to have to disconnect it from the back, pull this up right here. I've been told that this fitting right here, the coolant union, breaks very easily, so just don't mess with that. And then of course we'll need to unhook it from the radiator as well, undo these bolts, pull this hard line off, and then we can take off this heat shield, which is these two bolts here. And there's a couple on the inside that's going to be hard to see. But once we get that off, then we'll see what we need to do next. All right, so I am trying to get this bolt out on the heat shield right here so I can pull it out and hopefully get the turbo out pretty soon. But I have to now disconnect the downpipe and kind of push it out of the way because I cannot get to that bolt. So that's an 8mm triple square. But a lot of the bolts that you're going to be needing for this is like a T30, a T20, T25, and a 10mm is what I found. That's pretty much all I've used for everything on this car so far. We got the coolant line out of the way, obviously. All the solenoids are out. Okay, so the heat shield is off, as you probably just saw. But now, while we're at it, I have the EQT 5-bar T-map sensor. Something manifold absolute pressure. Yep, I think that's what it is. So this sensor goes right here on the intake manifold and just unplugs like that. And you can literally just unscrew it and pop it in. So take your T20 and just unscrew it. We already did the one on the throttle. We already did the one on the throttle pipe down below whenever I did the intercooler and charge pipes. So that one's already been taken care of. That one had 2 bolts, but very simple. That did not have any brackets like this one though, holding it in. So just like that. And then boop. Now, if you ask me what this does, I don't know, but I was told you need the 2 sensors for some stuff. And, you know, if we're doing a custom tune, might as well do everything at once. The only exception is I don't know if I'm going to end up doing MPI or not yet and installing my flex fuel harness. I think I'm going to run it on 93 for a while, and then maybe we'll see about getting a flex map, but I'm not too concerned about it. That's the old sensor there. That's the new sensor. We got it all plugged in, and literally, I mean, that's the easiest install we've done today. So that's it. That's the video. I'm just kidding. It's round 2 with this piece of shit. Okay, so I have made the executive decision to go ahead and try to remove the downpipe, and I'll show you why. So as you can see right here, we need to get the oil return line, which is underneath here. It's in the row with all other 3 of these that we've already gotten, but it's on the bottom side. So I can fit my ratchet in down here and pretty much try to remove the line right there with the M8 Torx bit. But my problem right now seems to be that I don't have enough clearance with my arm, really. So we're going to try to remove the downpipe, and hopefully one way or another that's going to make things easier to just get in there and get it out. That's the last thing holding us up other than a couple of studs, which I've already loosened all of them, so it's just a matter of trying to get that last line out, and then we should be good. Anyways, I'm going to cut to under the car and use my GoPro a bit to show you guys how to remove the downpipe, or at least in my case, which is an aftermarket downpipe with a custom exhaust setup. So let's get into it. Okay, so the downpipe is disconnected. I pulled a 200 IQ move and I removed it from the O2 sensor up here. And now the downpipe is quite literally just sitting against the ground. But like, that's totally fine. I'm not worried about that. I think that we should have enough room, hopefully now, to get in there and be able to get everything in, get that oil line off. Now with the downpipe like this, we should also be able to essentially just put it back in the brackets, have it line up close enough to where we need it to be able to put it back onto the turbo. So I'm hoping that with one person, being me, that'll make things a little bit easier when we go back to doing the install portion. All right, so we are now going to try and remove the turbo bracket, which is a 13 millimeter. I already removed the one that connects the turbo to the block. So this will come out like this, and yeah, we should be able to now get in there real good. Okay. Let's see if I can do it with the swivel now. Oh boy, this sucks, by the way. Definitely, if you're doing this job, get yourself a mirror. Oh my God. All right, give me a sec. All right, guys, it is 1 o'clock in the morning, and we have the bolts here. The other turbo bracket is right here. So I did manage to actually get the oil return line. Now, this was not a fun process, but the way I did it worked, and it's not okay. but it's fine because it worked. For starters, I had a ratchet like this, a flex head. I used an extension and a triple square bit up at the end. And let me switch to the GoPro real quick and I'll kind of go in there and show you. All right, so switching to the GoPro, I basically went in with this, went under all of these lines right here, and then I unscrewed it from the block. So let's see if you can see it over here, hopefully. So I disconnected, yep, okay. So you can see right there the auxiliary water pump is that small circle covered in heat shield. And it has that little bracket right there with the two bolts. Now next to that is that bottom return line, and there's a 8mm triple square that is hooked into the block, and basically you unscrew that. Now, like I said, I took my wrench here, basically came under it, whoop, like that. So, and then I was able to loosen it, and then with the downpipe out of the way, I went under the car, and essentially I just, ow, my head. I reached right up in there and pretty much unscrewed the rest by hand. Now this means that we're gonna have to pull out the line from the block when we go to pull out the turbo, but all that's left now is the 4 studs need to be loosened a bit more. I already loosened them, so they're just hand tight on there, which, matter of fact, 2 of them were actually already pretty much hand tight. Like, I literally took the wrench on it and I just turned it like without any effort, and the bolts came off. I don't think that's how it's supposed to be, because the top 2 were actually like kind of snugged up. So, you know, we don't do torque specs around here, okay? We do ugga dugga, and give it like literally all you got. Or just like a nice little like, you know, okay, that was kind of weird. Ugga. Either an ugga dugga, or just everything, you know? Those are your options. So I'm happy. I'm gonna go ahead and knock these studs out, and hopefully we can pull the turbo out after that. I still have to also kind of pry off the rear line a little bit, but hopefully when we go to rotate the turbo out, the line will pop out of the block. That's kind of my goal. So let's see how it goes. Such a bitch.
Is that the new one?
Just the old one. Oh. Yeah! Way too fucking long. Oh my god. All right, here it is. This is the stock IS-20 turbo. It is now out of the car, and we are gonna get to work on swapping over everything off of this turbo onto the new one. So as you can see right here, we have our wastegate, or well, that's the diverter. No, this is the diverter valve right here, I believe. That's our wastegate, which we have to swap over, and we're gonna have to calibrate it. Not exactly sure how to do that yet, but we'll get there. We also have to pop off these triple squares on the 2 oil lines, the rear oil return line and the, I believe, oil or coolant feed line. So yeah, shouldn't be too bad. We're also gonna have to take off, well, no, we're not gonna have to take this off because we have the turbo muffler for the new turbo. But I think we will have to take this off because I have to reuse the bolts from here. So we're gonna go grab the new turbo. We'll check out what hardware they gave us first, and then see what we have to end up reusing. So let's get into it. I'm excited. This shit absolutely sucked, but I will say it's not that bad. Yeah, I mean, if I can do it, you can do it too. Let's go with that. All right. Here she is, the Vortex. Here's all of our new hardware. All right, let's see here. So we have some new O-rings, which I believe is for, I don't know, honestly. This is obviously our new gasket for the turbo itself. Okay, where do we start? There's a lot here. All right, figured it out. So these are for the bracket, of course. This actually goes into the groove on the turbo that connects to the downpipe. So that's gonna be on this side, that groove right there. And then these studs are, you know, for where the turbo mounts to the head. And these are, I'm not gonna be replacing these because my studs are fine, but they're there, you know, in case you need them. So that is good to have. And then obviously we have brand new nuts to secure the turbo to the head. And we have some washers as well. And we also have this new gasket. So yeah, these O-rings are gonna go onto all of the lines on the turbo, and hopefully we'll get everything finished up nicely. All right, first things first, I'm gonna just remove this and make sure there's not an O-ring in here. Like I said, I did get my turbo muffler kit used from a friend, and there was not an O-ring. So, you know, if there is one in here, we'll reuse it for now. This isn't the hardest thing to replace in the future if there is, you know, bad O-ring. We would hope that it's good, but if it's not the end of the world. So these are torqued to 9 Newton meters, or in our case, an UGA. But yeah, 9 Newton meters, I believe. If it's wrong, I will correct it post-edit. Okay, it does look like there's an O-ring right in here, and we're gonna pop that off. There's a little bit of oil up in there as well. But you know, just from that, you can kind of tell, you know, what we're working with right there. Pop this out. Now I do have a torque wrench, and I will actually torque this down to spec. But be warned, my torque wrench for this application is comically large. Get this set to like right at 10. Just a smidge under, that's roughly 9. That does not feel right. That feels way too tight. That feels like it was on there way tighter than the factory bolts. Next, we'll go ahead and do the diverter valve, which, oh wait, no, this is the wastegate. The diverter valve is down here, so let's do that one next. Yeah, see, that came off real easily. Uh-oh. Oh shit. Well, I hope that's okay. And that will line up in that hole right there. And then just like we uninstalled the other one, we're literally just gonna, do it backwards. And just like that, the diverter valve is now installed. All right. Okay. And that nut is loose. Uh-oh. That might be a problem. Wouldn't it be? My wrench is too fat. Let me grab a different one. Oh, it's not really ideal, but unless you have a small enough ratchet or something to get in there, That's gonna be very tough to get. I guess it would probably be worth having like a stubby T30 or something. A stubby T30 would probably be very beneficial for this part here. We're just sending her. And now we need to swap that bad boy over. Now this is the part where I got a little bit confused, but we have to basically calibrate the wastegate. I'm gonna probably try and do it after it's in the car and just, you know, adjust this from underneath. I think it's doable. Probably gonna suck, but I think we'll get it. That's gonna be fun, but basically just leave this nut a little bit loose. So we're gonna do it. You can do it differently. They also sell the turbo with the pre-calibrated wastegate, which honestly might have been a great idea, but here we are, we're DIYing it, so we'll figure it out. All right, now we're gonna put back on the oil return line, and to do this, we are going to actually switch out the O-rings beforehand, and we're just gonna use one that's a similar size, so hopefully we won't have any issues there. Now let's get our second old O-ring. Always just try to pick around it like that. And also make sure you got a little bit of oil. I'm just gonna grab some liquid moly here. Alrighty, so we got the O-rings put on, and we have two different ones, but these were what kind of just fit best, so that's what we're gonna rock with. And so let's just go ahead and snap that back in. All right, now we need to swap over this line. And I went ahead and removed the triple square already. So we're just getting some PB on there. Bring it around just like that. So there is the new O-ring that we can just hopefully pop back on. Last thing we need to do now is put on this seal. Uh-oh. Just like that. That fire seal. And yeah, that's the new turbo. All set up, it looks like. So back in the engine bay, I do want to replace this rear line by the firewall here, the O-ring on that one. And then I also want to replace the O-ring on this oil feed line right here. So I believe this is the coolant return line. This is the oil feed line. And then obviously we have the coolant feed line, which is that really short line over there. And then the pain in the ass one, which is the oil return line at the bottom. Let's get those two O-rings swapped and we should be bueno. All right, so switching to the head cam POV, let's go ahead and grab this. Make sure I got everything, so yeah, okay. You know what? I do want to check one thing real quick. I want to make sure that the turbo inlet adapter is okay to basically throw on. All right, so the turbo inlet is now on. I don't know if this is gonna be easier to do it this way. I mean, it can't hurt, right? Yeah, it can't hurt. All right, there is our turbo, the EQT Vortex Standard. Let's do this. Let's get it in quick and easy. Okay, this ain't gonna be easy. What am I doing here? This is worse than I thought it would be. Let me close the garage. What can we do to make this easier right now? Probably nothing, honestly. Okay, look, don't hate me, but I got the turbo and then I wasn't able to film it. Let me show you what I did. So essentially, I just brought the turbo in. Obviously, we have that oil return line on the bottom, and I basically went in like this. So just kind of lowering it in, you know, exactly how it is in this orientation. Just kind of rotate it like forward and rotated it in. And I made sure to kind of clear this. I was using one hand to basically just push everything out of the way. And, you know, it ended up working out pretty well that way, but it's definitely not the easiest thing to film. However you got it out, you can pretty much say that you could put it back in that way. It's really not that bad. It's easier getting it in than it is getting it out. So if you can get it out, you can get back in. Promise, you're good. All right, it has been a long day. We're at the point now where essentially we just have to connect all the feed lines, the drain lines, put everything back to the block, and reroute our coolant lines and everything. I'm gonna wait to put back on the downpipe until after I do the wastegate calibration, which I have to basically manually adjust the wastegate under the car and use OBD11 to check the voltages. Honestly, some hose clamp pliers would go a long way right now. Oh man, this sucks. I don't even remember how the hell I got this shit off of here. I'm gonna see if I can walk this back a little bit. There we go. That's good. That ought to be good, right? Yeah, that's good. All right, now that's on, that's on. Okay, turbo studs, those gotta be tightened down a bit more still. Okay. Whew. You know what, while we're in here, let's go ahead and connect our wastegate actuator. I think now that this is mounted, I'm gonna install the discharge pipe that I have right here, like that. So, these clamps I did get from Amazon. They're pretty cheap, but they seem like they're pretty good quality, to be honest. I want to say they were like 10 bucks or so, something like that. All right, so look, I paused the head cam because I was trying to get on this stinking pipe here, and honestly, it's kind of kinked. It's not like kinked, but it's definitely
it's not more restrictive than the factory setup, we'll put it that way. So I think this might need to come down a little bit more. So that is a 10 millimeter. So let's loosen this and we'll try to fit it a little bit tighter. Yeah, I don't know about that. Regardless, I don't think that's coming off right now, which is fine. Okay, so what do we need to do right now? We need to put in this 10 millimeter nut right there, which we happen to have right here. I already put some oil in the top of this here. My advice to you is just be careful. All right, so that is tightened. There was some oil in there. It's not a big deal. We're just gonna snug that down. Now we have the 8 millimeter triple square that we got to get on the rear by the firewall. Again, this is where that flex head really comes in handy, and the stubby triple square. I believe this is our coolant return line. Grab my mirror. I feel like a dentist right now. Should probably tighten down this O2 next. So that is on there pretty good. What do we gotta do next? What do we gotta do next? I have no idea. So, all right, I'm about to crash out, man. Let's see. So we got this on, we got this on, we got the front line on. We gotta do that. Gotta connect this coolant line. We got the wastegate harness or wastegate actuator harness already plugged in, so that's cool beans. I think next we just have to. Uh-oh. Shit. Well, I did not mean to do that, but that's fine. See guys, I am not a mechanic. This is just, you know, something I do for fun. I enjoy pain. Alright, that clipped. Alright, so we're gonna have to adjust the wastegate actuator later down here. I'm not really looking forward to that, but we're gonna have to do it, so. Now this is a, I don't know what this is, T20 or T25? T25, there we go. So 1/4 inch T25 is what we got. Now those weren't very tight on there, but you know, just enough. All right, let's grab the next one. You know, I should probably be inspecting the O-rings, but I'm not, so I'm gonna do that on the next 6. Yeah, the next 6 I'll do that. But good rule of thumb is always check your O-rings, people. That's what I've been told, at least. Looks pretty dapper to me. Okay, all right, I forgot how this works. Obviously we got to connect here. This is to the reservoir, this is to the radiator. This is, so the mount, that's the mount, that's the mount. Wait, 1, 2, 3. Wait, why do I only have 4? What? I only have 3 screws? Nuh-uh, I don't understand. Whatever. Where did these go? So I honestly have 0 clue. That's probably right there. My GoPro died. Go figure. I'm gonna plug it in real quick. All right, so yeah, I just rerouted the coolant line how I showed you. I'm literally just moving the clamps now and then bolting down those T30s in the 3 spots that I showed you guys with the head cam. So once we do that, we have to go hook up that rear oil line to the block. That's gonna be a blast, I'm telling y'all. All right, all of the hoses are connected. I'm just gonna go ahead and bolt down this coolant hard line here in all 3 corners. So that is gonna be a T30, if I recall. And the coil grounding kit makes this so much quicker. These like factory nuts and the factory grounds are honestly such a pain. All right, see, coil packs are back in. Now I just gotta plug everything back up. So what I'm doing here is I'm basically just following the harness. The wires are all relatively cut to length, so you should be able to, for the most part, just basically follow everything. And you'll see exactly where it plugs into. All right, well, I believe everything is now plugged back in, and yeah, I think all we have to do is the rear oil return drain, whatever, the oil return line, that's the absolute bitch. So I have to go do that. So I used this gigantic extension with a 1/2-inch drive and a flex head. You probably don't need the flex head, it just helped a little bit by being able to kind of go like this, and you'll see why in a second. So I threw my 8mm triple square on here, this long extension, and I had this thing right here, okay? So what I did was actually, I moved the downpipe more to the side here, and I came through the trans tunnel with the bolt already seated on the bit over here, and just slowly brought it into line with the block. Now, before I did that part, I actually had to get the hole lined up. So I just took a Phillips head like this. I think I used one that was a little bit longer, and I just basically put it in the ear tab where the threads were, put it through, and that allowed it to line up from the block side. So that then after that, I could take my triple square extension here and essentially just, you know, insert the bolt into the block and cinch it down. That was not a fun process. However, it did seem to work pretty well. And yeah, I would be cautious of the seals. So, you know, just be cognizant of that. Yeah, that's how I managed to get the oil return line out of the block. That's the part that pretty much everyone says is the hardest on this job. So I hope that little tip of advice helps. What is going on, everybody? It is the next morning and we are here continuing the turbo install. So here's what happened. Last night, off camera, I filled up the coolant reservoir and just kind of started feeding some coolant through the system since we had to drain everything when we did the radiator. Now, here's the problem. Currently, under the car, you can see right there next to that green mop, there is a puddle of coolant, and I know where it's coming from. Now, I don't 100% know where it's coming from, but I have a pretty good idea, just judging by the spot of coolant there and judging where the coolant is at the very top of the engine bay. It looks like it's coming from the coolant return line, which is the one closest to the firewall in the back over here. I don't know if it's the O-ring, I don't know if I didn't tighten it down enough, or if it's just not seated in 100% of the way, but we're gonna try and figure that out next. So let's get into it and hopefully wrap up this install today. Obviously, I kind of got carried away with wanting to do all this stuff, and I didn't realize that I actually needed to still put back in the PCV breather hose. So we're gonna have to kind of just finagle it in there and get it working prior to putting on the new blaze intake, which is also part of the plan today. But that'll be in a separate video. So let's get the turbo buttoned up. Let's get it good, and we'll see what it's looking like today. All right, guys,
this right here, this O-ring, I don't know if you can see that, that was the problem. So I ended up replacing this O-ring with one of the ones that EQT provided, and it was, I thought it wasn't like the right O-ring, but essentially it was like the same size, it just wasn't quite as thick. So I found out that apparently they expand. Who would have knew? I guess that's what O-rings do. So yeah, I swapped the O-ring into there, popped the line out even with all the coolant disconnected. The main coolant line that goes across the engine bay into the coolant feed line on the car, I ended up just kind of clamping that with some vice grips to help kind of minimize the coolant coming out of the car. But I was able to just remove it, and it did leak a lot, but I removed it, kind of held it up a little bit so that way it would kind of help it not leak as much rather than facing down. And I swapped out the O-ring just real quick with my fingers, took this broken one off, made sure it was all good to go back in, made sure it was very flush when I seated it back into the actual turbo, and then I just kind of hand tightened it down, you know, cinched it down while also applying a pressure on the line against the turbo. So pushing on the turbo, screwing it in, and then pushing on the turbo and, you know, cinching it down essentially. And it looks like now it's not leaking anymore. However, there is still coolant kind of dripping, but I believe that's just everything that's all over the bottom, like subframe, and pretty soaked. So anyhow, here's the situation now. So I think that we are pretty much good on the coolant side. Doesn't look like we have any leaks. So as it stands now, I think in my case, I'm gonna just install the intake beforehand, reinstall the battery and everything. And I'm gonna leave the downpipe off for right this second because I still need to get down there and adjust the wastegate through this crevice here. So that's gonna be a pain, but we're gonna do it this way. And hopefully y'all can learn a thing or two if you don't have a bench calibration setup, which I don't have. Hopefully it works fine. And yeah, let's get right into it. Well, I think that's pretty much gonna wrap up the video for today. I'm just gonna go ahead and start filling up the coolant here, making sure it doesn't leak anymore. And if so, then we'll revisit it. Pretty much just trying to get the car back together in one piece. And so that way we can flash on the base map, start it, depressurize the fuel system, and get rolling with our real base map. Well, oh shit, well, I started hearing a leak. I think I just spilled some of that. I'm pretty sure that's what happened, but not 100% sure. So next video, we're gonna be installing the blaze intake, probably adjusting the wastegate actuator once we get the battery in the car and we flash on the new tune. I'm gonna wait and hope that this coolant doesn't leak. Please just, you know, be optimistic. Anyways, well, if you guys enjoyed the video, it would mean a lot to me if you guys hit the like button, subscribe maybe for the next video, I don't know. Anyways, catch you guys in the next one. Peace out.